Sean, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today at 1 Million Acts of Innovation. Really, it's just such an honor, privilege to have the option of interviewing you. One of I would say about 20% of the members of 1 Million Acts of Innovation are students, college, university, even high school students.
Yeah.
And consistently, one of the things I hear from them is, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up.
Yeah.
And to have this interview with you is just such a profound honor for me, and I think it would be such a great pleasure for all of the members of Mini Acts of Innovation to hear your story. And I just can't wait till I get a chance to get going. So Sean, I'd love for you to share a little bit about yourself, who you are, kind of thing, before I start to ask you my 3 questions, if I may.
Yeah, so I mean, who I am is, my name is Sean Aiken. I grew up in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I remember that question from a very young age. You know, Sean, what do you want to be when you grow up? It was always from the time I was 5 years old. It was always that question, and from a young age, I always thought that I wanted to be a professional athlete. I loved being involved in sports, and I thought, well, hey, I'm going to be in the NBA, and so I really struggled with that question throughout my high school years, and then actually into college. I ended up doing a business administration degree. So I graduated with a business degree from Capilano University in North Vancouver. And having spent all these years in school, I came out of there with a piece of paper that said business administration degree, but I really had no idea what was next for me and what step to take. Yeah. And that all led to me traveling, doing some self-exploration, trying to learn about who I am and what it is that I want to do, which ultimately led to the start of the 1 Week Job Project.
So that would be my first question. That's definitely an act of innovation in many circles, however you want to define innovation. So tell us about your act of innovation.
Yeah, so my act of innovation was called the 1 Week Job Project. So to answer this question, what do you want to be when you grow up, I came up with this idea to try out many different things. I'd always been the thought of just choosing one career for my entire life and not knowing whether it was going to be fulfilling or not, and feeling almost trapped in this position where I trade my time for money, and then one day I reach retirement and then I get to finally do what I enjoy doing. Didn't really sound very appealing to me, and I made a promise to myself that I was going to find something that I was passionate about. So here I was, came out of school and unsure what the next step was, but I wanted to figure out a way that I could get some experience, where I could learn about myself, I could learn about different careers. I think a mistake that a lot of us make when we choose a career is that we focus on the end title. We'll say, I want to be a doctor, or a teacher, a construction worker, whatever it may be, but we don't think about what actually goes into the job. What is the day-to-day like? What is the lifestyle like? What are the type of people that I'm going to be working with? So my idea was, well, what if I created this website called oneweekjob.com, and I said anybody, anywhere in the world could offer me a job for 1 week. And I'd spend an entire year doing a different job each week and learn about different careers. And I'd ask my employers about their jobs and how they got to where they did, and what advice do they have for other people coming out of school stuck and trying to figure out how to answer that question, what do I want to be when I grow up? Wow. So it led me all around North America. I traveled over 70,000 kilometers, everything from a park ranger in Hawaii to a fashion buyer in New York, a firefighter in Florida. I was the mascot of the Washington Capitals. I worked with the Canadian Air Force, radio DJ, stock trader, dairy farmer, you name it. My final job, I was in my hometown of Port Moody, which is a town about 25 minutes east of Vancouver, and I was the mayor of my hometown.
Wow!
So I had a credible experience, and a part of the whole journey as well was donating my wages to charity. So I asked all my employers to donate my wages to the Make Poverty History campaign, and raised over $20,000 for charity over the year. And how I survived was had a sponsor on board to help me with travel expenses. So each month they'd give me $1,000, and I'd put that towards all my travel expenses, which covered it all, because I didn't have to pay for accommodation once, the entire year. I would sleep on people's couches. People would email me saying, "Hey, Sean, I see you're coming to town. You're welcome to crash on my couch while you're here," which really just enriched the experience, made it all that much more rewarding.
Sure.
And
Sure.
yeah, it was an incredible journey. You know, one thing that really resonated with me is how it touched so many people around the world. It went viral online, and media around the world picked up the story. And I realized that it's not just something that I was facing with, but it's something that all of us face at some point in our lives, of looking objectively at what is it that I want to do with my life, and how do we go about answering that question.
Very cool. Now, throughout this journey, I bet you've had some failures. Failures that you learned something from, failures that's worth sharing a little bit about. Could you share a little bit about some failures you had and what did you learn from it?
I think probably the biggest failure throughout the year, the biggest challenge, was this sense of this kind of self-doubt. I think a lot of the challenges that I experienced stemmed from self-doubt, and whether the project was even possible. If you can imagine, you know, when you have an idea and it can seem a little bit out there, people are going to doubt you, and everyone's going to say, "You can't do that. That's crazy." You know, when I had the idea, I told people I'm going to be working 52 jobs in 52 weeks. They thought I was nuts. Right? They thought, like, "Are you kidding me? You can't do that. Who's going to hire you knowing you're only going to be there for a week? How are you going to survive donating all your wages to charity? You know, you're crazy." And then by the end of the year, now when I say that's like, "Oh wow, that's such a great idea," after the fact, right? So, you know, from very from very early on, you know, I remember after week 1, I didn't have a job lined up for week 2,
Wow.
and I had no idea where I was going to go. I had no idea, and I started, you know, going, you know, that self-doubt, that little voice inside my head kicked in and saying, "Yeah, this is crazy. Here, you know, this is not going to work. What do you think?" And I remember having a talk with a friend of mine, and we were able to break it down and just really revisit my reasons for doing the project and why it was important to me, which kind of remotivated me to then continue forward and actually keep pursuing it. I remember about 3/4 of the way through the project had gotten really big in the media. So I was on New York Times, CNN, Good Morning America, The Rachel Ray Show, and it was really just getting kind of just really massive. I was getting a lot of emails and a lot of attention around it. And what that happened was that the jobs became secondary, and I realized that it became a job in itself trying to manage all the media and everything else surrounding the project. And it kind of hit me when somebody said, "Hey, Sean, you're on Good Morning America. Congratulations." And I realized that, you know, if I go through the whole year and don't actually take the time to learn about who I am and what it is that I'm looking for in a career and what do I want in my life, then the project's going to be a failure.
Absolutely.
Right? And you know, it's not about becoming, you know, being on TV, right? As a lot of times we often associate what means success is how many people are watching what we're doing. And I realized for me that it was kind of a moment of check-in. It was probably my lowest point of the whole year, because I realized that I'd gotten away from my intention, my motivations for me even starting the project in the first place. So in that challenge, in that failure, was an opportunity to reevaluate what it is that I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So it ended up being a really important part of the whole experience, because it allowed me to really dive into the learnings of myself and making the experience that much more worthwhile at the end of the year.
So, like, your failures gave you the opportunity to get really close to your values, your core values.
Exactly.
Really understand your core values. And your failures gave you the access to that.
Exactly. I find that
that's awesome.
Whenever we are off track, yeah, like whenever we're off track and we're feeling a little lost, we're feeling kind of out there, there's something, we're not in line with something true to ourselves, right? So for me, I was feeling really lost, and I felt like, oh my gosh, where am I going? And it was an invitation for me to then take a look at well, something's not right here. Well, let's look at my values. Okay, yeah, let's look at my, looking back at why you're doing what you're doing and realizing, oh, that's why something's a little off, because my actions are no longer in line with my values. And so it's an opportunity to kind of check in with yourself and then move forward.
So what did you learn about yourself? What's like your ideal job now?
Well, I learned that many things about myself in general. I found that I really enjoy helping others. I really enjoy exploring and trying new things. More specifically, I find that I'm most fulfilled in a role where I'm helping people discover who they are. For me, I was often felt overwhelmed in talking about acts of innovation and being of service. I thought, well, wow, I'm only one person. How can I make a difference? And I would get overwhelmed of thinking, where can I put my energy? Where can I put my effort? And it would leave me doing nothing, and thinking, well, I'm only one person. What can I really do? And what I've come to learn is that I feel if I can help other people get in line, get in touch with who they are, and inspire them, then it really allows them to make the best decisions that's going to be of benefit to all of us. So I find that I'm most fulfilled in a situation where I'm helping people discover what it is that makes them come alive, and giving them the courage and inspiration to pursue their passions.
Good for you. Good for you. Such an honor to have the opportunity of talking to you. And by the way, I hope at the end of this you're going to join and become one of the members of 1 Million Acts, so you can mentor some of the students and senior executives in our audience who are looking to figure out what is it they want to do when they grow up.
Yeah.
I guess my last question is, what advice do you have for people who want to start their acts of innovation? In your case, it was really getting a sense of what you want to do when you grow up. But other people have other issues that that's in the foreground for them. What advice do you have for them in terms of how to cause their first act of innovation?
I mean, I think from my perspective, I really think it's this sense of taking action. I've had many different ideas throughout my life, and it's like, well, that would be great, and I feel called to do it, and then all of a sudden that little voice kicks in, and all of a sudden fear wells up in me, and then I start making excuses. Well, I'm only one person. What can I really do? Or I don't really have the time. And so I think what my advice would be it can often be overwhelming when you look at the big picture, when you think of, wow, I'm going to try and help this issue, and it's such a big issue, and I'm only one person. Or it's such a big idea, 1 year, 52 jobs, 52 weeks, traveling around the world. That's really overwhelming. I get really overwhelmed with all these big ideas. What I found is that it's important to not focus on that big idea. So you have that vision of the long term, but then really take it right back to that first step. What is that first step that leads you on that path? And it sounds very cliche in that it's one step at a time, but it really is. I think that that end goal might change as you start walking down the path, but what's most important is that you take that first step. As I said, for me, it was really. I remember I had everything ready. I had the website complete. I had my email that I was going to send out to friends and family and to the media to help support the project. It was all ready. Everything was going, and then I hesitated and I stopped and I kind of put it aside and I waited and I thought, what am I doing? Who am I? And all that went through, and the first step for me was preparing that email and hitting the send button. And I remember as my mouse was hovering over the send button, I thought, oh my goodness, what am I doing? And I hit send, and that was the first step. And it can take a continual amount of courage to take each step, I found. For me, I thought, okay, once I'm in it, then that's it. That's like dominoes, they start rolling. Yeah. And yes, but each time you're about to take that next step, it takes that revisiting that courage of checking into why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I think that is the key. If you can stay in line with your values, stay in line with why you are doing, the intention behind your action, then it reminds you why you're doing what you're doing. It doesn't matter what other people think. This is about you contributing in the way that you want to be of service. Then it gives you that courage to then take that next step. And for me, it was, people would ask, Sean, are you surprised that things turned out the way it did? And I said, well, no, because I had that vision. I saw that bigger picture. I saw the bigger end project, and then I started back at that first step. About 3/4 of the way through the year, I look back and I think of how far I've really come. And it wasn't a surprise that it actually happened. But the surprise to me was that when I actually took that step after step after step after step, then looking back and you actually really see how far I've come, the surprise was that it actually happened. The surprise was that I walked the path and it led me where I thought I was going. Not exactly. I spoke to a lot of people that it's not so much important that you end up with that vision where you thought you would end up, but the most important thing is that you're walking along and you're going to end up where you're supposed to end up.
Very
so
good.
In terms of advice, it really is take the first step. Really. And then keep walking.
So it's like, so what I'm hearing is have a clear picture of the end goal. Like, be crystal clear about that. Take a first step.
Don't be attached to it.
Don't be attached to it. Very good. And then every day there's a first step to take towards accomplishing that goal. And then the other thing that I think I heard from you was, and you didn't use this particular set of languaging, but was it always looks bigger to you than what it takes in reality.
Yes.
So for you in your brain, in your mind, it may look really what a big project to take on, but in terms of step, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, 5 steps, it's actually a lot smaller than what you imagine it to be.
Yeah, it becomes much more manageable.
Awesome. That's
it becomes
awesome.
much more manageable.
That's awesome. So Sean, just one last question before I leave you for today. How do people get in touch with you if people want to connect with you?
Yeah, so the website for the project is oneweekjob.com, and my email address is on there, and the Facebook group as well. And there's also videos from different talks that I've done.
Oh, that's awesome.
Idea City in Toronto, or my TEDx Vancouver talk as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Sharing the story and the lessons that I learned along the way.
Sean, thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you face to face next time you're in Toronto.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks. Have a great day. Bye for now.